Hello, in this video I will teach you how to get great looking footage from your drone in manual mode, and I'm not gonna focus on the strictly technical stuff like shutter speeds, frame rates, ND filters, color profiles and whatnot, which for me honestly corresponds to like a tiny fraction of the overall effect of your video, but instead I'm gonna focus on what to actually do with your drone. Wow, that's loud. What to actually do with your drone once it's airborne. What moves to do, what moves to avoid, and why, and how to get great looking, professionally looking video. Let's get started. Alright, so the most important thing to remember when you want to get great video from your drone is to make smooth motion. You don't want to make those jarring moves, and I've seen many videos online where people kept the part of the footage when they are adjusting the gimbal or the position of the drone before they actually do their move. And this is a very amateuristic thing to do and a giveaway that it was not operated by a professional. Professionally looking video footage from the drone is very smooth. The transitions between different moves and different angles are very smooth, and it's very visually appealing, and it is just nice to look at from the viewer's perspective. So if you want to get smooth motion in manual mode, especially on DJI drones, it's actually a three-step process. First of all, in your DJI controller on the right hand side there's this switch. It says T, P or S. S stands for sport mode, and you want to avoid sport mode because in sport mode the drone is very agile, but because of that the moves are not smooth at all. So you want to use P mode, which is positioning mode, or tripod mode, but honestly I would just leave it at P because in tripod mode there's a limitation on the speed of the drone. So I think a good balance is P mode. Just make sure that you are not in sport mode by a mistake or something like this. The second thing that you want to do is you want to dial down the sensitivity of the joystick on your controller, and for that I needed to turn on the drone, so excuse me for any background noise if you hear it. So what you want to do is you want to go into the settings, and then in settings you want to switch to the first tab here and go all the way down into advanced settings, and from here you have EXP, sensitivity and gain. You want to go to sensitivity and you want to dial down the sensitivity, because the less sensitive those joysticks are, the less jerky motions there will be when you are changing the way you fly. If you are changing the direction, or for instance the angle at which are you turning or something like this, if you have high sensitivity of those joysticks, even the slightest move with your hand will result in a jerky move, and you want to avoid this. So you want to dial down the sensitivity of the altitude, brake, your movement limit as well. So I can reduce this I already have at here. I can reduce it even more. Again, sorry for the noise, it's the fan in the Mavic 2 Pro. I needed to turn it on in order for those settings to be available. And the second thing you want to do here in settings is adjust the smoothness and the sensitivity of the gimbal, because you can also move the gimbal up and down. And for that you need to go to this tab, which is this little camera with this line above. And again, advanced settings, and from here you have max gimbal pitch speed and gimbal pitch smoothness, and you want to reduce the gimbal speed and you want to increase the smoothness in order to have smooth motion while you are turning this dial right here. Alright, let's turn off the drone. And the third thing you can do when it comes to camera settings in order to ensure the smooth moves of your drone is to enter the so-called cinematic mode. So in order to do that, in your controller you need to click on this icon, and then there you have it in the right hand and bottom corner you have the cinematic mode. I cannot enter it right now because I didn't take off yet, but if I did I will be able to enter the cinematic mode. And the cinematic mode, what it basically does, it ensures that all of the moves, all of the changes in movement in your drone are eased out. For instance, if you are flying full blast forwards and you just let go of the controller, normally the drone will come into a halt pretty quickly, and it will result in a super jerky move. But in cinematic mode it will actually ease out the braking, so the drone will not abruptly stop, but it will be sort of eased out, which will definitely look more visually appealing. But beware in using this mode because the drone will be less responsive. For instance, if you want to dodge some kind of an obstacle, the drone may be less responsive, so you may have trouble avoiding obstacles. So if you're using this mode, just make sure you have clearance in the air and you don't fly into something, because you definitely don't want to fly into something, right? By the way, if you're wondering how come I have a strap for my controller, I actually have a separate video. You can click on the tab right here when I explain how to adapt your camera strap into your DJI controller strap. So check out this one if you're interested. I can actually take it off right now. And now in this part of the video, let's actually focus on what moves should you do with your drone and what moves should you avoid. And first, let's talk about the one move that everybody does as a beginner, and it is a cardinal mistake and you should avoid it at all costs. And this kind of move is the panning move. If you take the drone The panning mode is basically just rotating your drone in the same spot in the air. And it's a very appealing shot because it's very easy to do. It's very safe because you're basically just hanging in the air, hovering in the same position, and you're just panning. So there is no worry about flying into something, into some kind of an obstacle. And you're showing off a lot of the landscape because you're panning, so you're going from left to right, so you are showing to your viewer more that you could fit in the frame, and also you're introducing movement into the shot. So this shot seems perfect, right? So why is it so bad? Well, it's bad for two reasons. One of them is strictly technical, and what it means is that if you are panning, it is very likely that the shot will be jarring and kind of jerky, you know? When you have the movement in your shot, it will not appear smooth, but it will be kind of choppy, and it is connected to the frame rate. If you have higher frame rate, the less likely this jarring will occur. But this occurs not only in drones, but in pretty much every camera, and I will link down below to an excellent resource by the Red Cinema Camera website where you can read all about this jarring and panning shots and how to avoid it, etc. But even if you find a way to avoid this jarring, you still shouldn't do panning shots. And why? Because panning shots are really not that interesting. And why is that? Because in panning shots there's no focal point, and the focal point is basically a point in the frame in your video when the viewer is supposed to focus their attention. For instance, in this shot the focal point is of course my head. You're probably looking at my face or my eyes while I'm speaking, and if you are panning, if I was panning, everything in the shot is changing. So there's no thing that the viewer can fixate their vision, their eyes on. For instance, if you have a dolly, when I'm just going forward to the camera or backwards, I am moving in and out, so my head is getting bigger or smaller, but it basically is in the same portion of the frame, and this is the focal point. And while you are panning, everything is changing, so the viewer doesn't really know what to focus their attention on. That's why panning is bad. So if you drive home anything from this video, the one thing to remember is to avoid doing panning shots. So what shots could you actually do? Well, I'm going to talk about 3 simple moves that you can introduce that look actually super badass in your video. And the first one is very easy, is just flying forwards or flying backwards. And it already looks pretty dramatic and pretty cool, and it's pretty easy to pull off because you just go forwards at a constant speed and just record the video. But in order for this to make a desirable effect, you need to fly off pretty far away from you. And if you're using the drone like the Mavic 2 Pro, which has excellent reception when it comes to the controller signal, you can probably do that 1 kilometer away even, or something like this. But if you have a drone that uses Wi-Fi connection, you may be concerned about the range that the drone can fly off, but the farther you fly away, the better it is for your shot. And you may be concerned that the drone is flying too slow for the video effect to have the desirable impact on your viewer, but worry not, you can always speed it up in post-production. And also you can reverse the clip, you can do all sorts of tricks in post-production. So for instance, you can fly forward and then play it back so it appears that you're moving backwards and actually revealing the landscape. It creates an awesome effect. And if you want to spice up the flying forwards or backwards, you can actually do a move number 2, which is fly forwards or backwards, and at the same time change the tilt angle of your gimbal. So this is useful in a situation when you are, for instance, flying over something interesting. Maybe it's a tree, maybe it's a church, a monument, or even a beach or something like this. When you are flying over something, try to change the pitch of your gimbal so you are looking more deeper and deep down, and to the point where you are looking straight down onto your subject. So if you're flying over, for instance, a tree, you'll be looking more down, and at the point where you're crossing the tree, you will be in the top-down view. This looks pretty awesome, but it takes a little bit of practice to synchronize those 2 moves because you're flying forwards and tilting down, and if you're tilting down too fast, you will be in top-down before you reach the subjects. If you're tilting down too slow, you will fly over it before reaching the subject. So it may take a little bit of practice, but once you master it, the effect is awesome. And the third shot that I wanted to share with you is probably my favorite one, and it looks super badass. And the shot is the orbiting shot. So what it means is that you are flying your drone sideways, so you're not flying forwards or backwards, you're flying sideways, and at the same time you are turning. So if I take my drone, the orbiting shot would be looking like this. I am flying to the side, and at the same time I am rotating in the opposite direction, in a way to keep the center of the frame at the same subject, but I have a lot of movement in my shot. This shot is very dynamic because it changes perspective. It really looks awesome. It's my favorite shot. And again, you need to synchronize the movement in sort of 2 planes because you're flying to the side and at the same time you are panning. But the panning you do is synchronized to the flying to the side in a way that the center of the frame, the focal point, remember, stays the same, and that's what makes this kind of shot, the orbiting shot, a really great looking move in your drone video. Once you master these shots, you may want to step it up a notch and, for instance, introduce movement in another direction, for instance going up or down or something like this. Let me know down below in the comments which drone move is your favorite one, and if you're getting tired, if you're trying and you cannot synchronize the movement and you just want to get great shot, worry not, because you can always go into those pre-programmed quick shots in your drone and actually get some kind of an orbiting shot or something like this out of the gate. But I would encourage you to try to do this manually, because if you do this manually you will have more control and you will be able to create unique looking videos. You don't want your videos to look all the same like everybody else on the internet. And if you fly in manual mode and if you master synchronizing movement in different directions, you will be able to create something that is personal to you, your take on whatever you are filming, and the overall effect of the video will be so much better. So go out and fly. Well, maybe in the current situations it's hard to go out, but you know, if you're flying your drone, you're probably keeping your social distance. You don't want to be talking to anybody, you're just focused on flying. So I think it's good for social distancing to just go out into the wild completely alone and practice drone flying, right? Alright, that's it for me for this video. Give this video a thumbs up if you like this, hopefully. Also consider subscribing to this channel, because there will be more videos like this. I usually post pretty much every single week and I cover all sorts of topics related to photography and filmmaking, not only drones. I also cover Adobe tutorials like Photoshop, Lightroom, Premiere Pro, After Effects, so definitely check out the videos on my channel. I already have plenty. You will probably find something interesting there already, but like I said, consider subscribing to the channel because there will be a lot more videos in 2020. But that's it for now. See you next time. Have a good day and bye bye.